On today's episode of the Gamer Girl Podcast, Elizabeth discusses her top 10 video games from the Legend of Zelda franchise. Hey everybody! So, if you couldn't tell from the intro, today's episode is going to be about my top 10 Zelda games. I feel like this is a very controversial topic, so let me know either on Discord, in the comments on YouTube, or maybe even in a review if you want to. What your top 10 Zelda games are. Or if you just think a certain game needs to be moved higher or moved lower, or if there's one game, for instance, that you think should not be above another game because you think that one game is supposed to be higher than another game, such as Wind Waker being better than Ocarina of Time, which is not true, and you will see in today's episode. Anyway, that's from Micah on the Nintendo Pals podcast, which is a great podcast. Which actually, Andros and Micah, who co-host the Nintendo Pals podcast, Andros left a question that I'll be answering later in the episode. But anyway, today's episode I feel like can be fairly controversial. So, if you want to let me know what games you think should be moved higher or lower, or what games should be above other games, or what your top 10 Zelda games are, feel free to go join the Discord, link in the description of the episode, or on YouTube if you're listening on YouTube. Or feel free to leave me a comment on today's episode over on YouTube, or even leave a review, which I do have a lot of questions to answer today, but I don't have any reviews to go over, which breaks the streak we currently had of 2 reviews going into over the past 2 episodes. So go leave a review on Podchaser and or Apple Podcast, or go leave a 5-star review over on Spotify. Helps the podcast out a ton. So anyway, the first question I'm going to be answering today is coming from Purple Riolu over on Discord. Again, link in the description if you want to come join the Discord, and you can leave questions for me to answer in future episodes. So, anyway, coming from Purple Riolu, what are your top predictions for the next Nintendo Direct? Presumably in June. So, presumably next month, but this question came in May, and it is now June, so a possible June 2022 Direct, which I think is very plausible since E3 was canceled, and I'm sure Nintendo will do a quote-unquote E3 Direct, but it will just be a June Direct. So I have a couple predictions. Hopefully some more Splatoon 3 news, since that is releasing later in the year. Hopefully some more news for Breath of the Wild 2 would be greatly appreciated. I would really enjoy that. Maybe talking more about the story, maybe travel aspects, maybe some landscape features that they could be going over, mechanics, more going over the mechanics. I'm really hoping they will announce a Zelda release for this year, 2022, since Breath of the Wild 2, the sequel to Breath of the Wild 2, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild 3, hope. I don't know if they'll go that far. It would be nice, but, depending on how well Breath of the Wild 2 is. Anyway, since Breath of the Wild 2 did get moved to a release date in 2023, if we got an announcement to a Zelda release for this year, or aka 2022, that would be great. A couple things I feel like they could do for a Zelda release is they could do Oracle game remakes, which I feel they could do it in the Link's Awakening style, since Link's Awakening DX and the Oracle games were all on the Game Boy Color. So they technically already have the engine that they could use for it, I guess, and they would just have to redo the maps and add like the seasons changing or the time changing mechanic from Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, respectively. Seasons being changing the seasons, ages being changing time. Another thing I feel like that I would be really cool is a Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess port. I think these are both games that would be really good on the Switch. Both are GameCube games, and both had remakes released on the Wii U. Which a cool thing about Twilight Princess is it's actually very similar to Breath of the Wild, in which it released on a system it was planned to only release on one console, for Twilight Princess the GameCube and for Breath of the Wild the Wii U, and it ended up being a release title for the coming console for Twilight Princess the Wii and for Breath of the Wild the Nintendo Switch. It ended up being a release title. Another thing that would be cool is another Mario movie trailer. A Mario movie trailer, since we didn't really get a quote-unquote trailer for the Mario movie. We only got a cast, which I'm super excited about that coming out later this year, the Mario movie. Another thing I feel like would be cool for them to announce is a Tomodachi Life port. Since they did Miitopia last year, Tomodachi Life, I feel like, would be the next Mii game to port. I already went over Wind Waker Twilight Princess port. The next wave of Mario Kart DLC tracks. I feel like that would definitely be something they would announce, since that came out three months ago, I think, in March. 3 months ago in March was when the Mario Kart DLC tracks came out. So I feel like it would make sense for them to release the next wave. A new sport announcement for Nintendo Sports. We do know we're getting golf later this year. If they announced another sport, that would be cool. One sport that I would really like is air sports, because that was something I really enjoyed doing on Nintendo Sports. Not Nintendo Sports Resort. Wii Sports Resort. So that would be cool. Also, another thing I could see them announcing is another gaming system for the Nintendo Switch Online. It probably wouldn't be for just the normal Nintendo Switch Online. It would probably be a part of the expansion. But since they added the N64, I don't know if they would add the GameCube just yet. But I definitely think I could see them doing like Game Boy games, or Game Boy Color, or even Game Boy Advanced, maybe. And then, those are my June 2022 Direct predictions. If there is a June 2022 Direct, which I think there likely will be. So, that was Purple Real's question. Next, we have a question coming from Andros, who, like I said earlier in the episode, co-hosts with Micah on the Nintendo Pals podcast, which totally suggest checking out after you listen to today's episode. So Andros asked, what game are you looking forward to most that's coming in 2022? And this, if Breath of the Wild 2 hadn't been postponed to 2023, I would be saying Breath of the Wild 2 would be the game I'm looking forward to the most coming out this year, 2022. But Splatoon 3, for sure, is the game I'm looking forward to the most. I'm very excited about it, which is another reason I would really like them to do more news, is so I can look more into it, which I'm pretty sure they recently released screenshots for Splatoon 3, the story mode, and I feel like they could definitely discuss more about the story mode, because we got footage of a full match, and story mode would be a good thing to go more on. We had a whole trailer on the Salmon Run. I feel like if they went somewhat more into the story without totally giving it away, which was something I definitely enjoyed about Splatoon 2, was the story was definitely not fully given away in the trailers. But anyway, Splatoon 3, very excited about it coming out later this year. Granted, it did get put out towards the end of the summer rather than towards the beginning of the summer, which is a little upsetting. But still, looking forward to it. So, the last question I have for today is another one coming from Purple Riolu, saying, what was your favorite part of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet trailer? Which, as of recording this, came out a couple days ago? Three days ago? Anyway, my favorite parts of the Scarlet and Violet trailer was the fact that we're getting 2 professors, which is very cool, and I did end up getting Sword and Shield. This game, I think I will likely end up getting both Scarlet and Violet, just because I think there's going to be a good amount of story differentiation between the 2 games, which I think is nice. Granted, it's how Game Freak can get more money out of you, because you're like, oh, I get this one professor, oh, but I also want to have this professor. I think it'd be really cool is if the other professor from the other game made an appearance of some sort. Like, maybe at some point in the game, so you can still, like, talk to them to some extent. But the fact that we're getting 2 professors, I'm very excited about that. Another thing I very much enjoyed was just the new Pokemon, the legendaries I'll talk more about later, but the new Pokemon, Pawmi, which is the Pikachu clone. It's so cute and fluffy, and I think I may have a Pawmi on my team. It kind of depends on what the other Pokemon ends up being. Lechonk is adorable, and I have seen memes about people, like, I've only had him for a day, and if anyone were to hurt him, I'd get so mad. But is basically, and then also Smoliv is super cute, and it's an olive, which I think is adorable. But Lechonk, the names are really funny too. Pawmi, Lechonk, and Smoliv. Also, I very much enjoy saying Lechonk, which is probably why I've said it so much in the past minute or so. So, another thing, the box art legendaries. I might butcher the names. Koraidon and Miraidon. Let me know how you think those should be pronounced. But I've seen a couple theory things about this, but I would not be surprised if you end up riding them because they do look like motorcycles. I've seen people describe how they look like motorcycles. I think they do look like motorcycles. And then the really cool thing, though, is how the 2 professors, Sada and Toro, somewhat overlap with the designs of Koraidon and Miraidon, the box art legendaries, such as Sada and Koraidon both are ancient and past, and Toro and Miraidon are future, which makes me think we're probably going to get a time travel aspect in the new games, which would kind of make sense since we recently had time travel in Hisui. And we just got the Hisuian forms. It would make sense for them to incorporate time travel so you could somehow get the Hisuian forms or have an explanation for getting the Hisuian forms. The rival, I thought the design of the rival was really cool. Nimona, really liked it. One thing I noticed about her is her armband's bracelet sort of thing. The big thing I point about the bracelet is maybe Mega Evolutions are coming back. Because Gigantamax, that definitely seems like something they were just having in the, oh my goodness, I'm blanking. The Galar region, and it's a Galar region specialty to some extent. Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing, so Mega Evolution coming back would be really cool. Or maybe we're going to get a whole nother gimmick. I don't know. It'd be cool. So, and then also the graphics, I really like them. and how they're very similar to Snap. I do enjoy the graphics of Snap, so I do like the new graphics. So that was the final question. All of these were over on Discord. Feel free to join the Discord. Again, link in the description. If you want to come leave a question for a future episode, or just chat with fellow listeners of the podcast. Again, link in the description. And then also, please go leave her a 5-star review over on Podchaser, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please, feel free to leave a written review on Podchaser and Apple Podcasts, and then we can possibly get a streak going again. It would be really cool. I love hearing from you listeners, and you listeners, very much enjoy the participation in the episode. Well, I guess, participation in episodes and all that. So, without further ado, let's get into the whole reason you decided to click on today's episode. Well, not maybe the whole reason, maybe it's just like listening to me talk. I don't know. But today is titled Top 10 Zelda Games. Top 10 games from the Zelda franchise. So, we're going to start at number 10 and work our way up. A Link to the Past is my number 10. I haven't played this game too much. Quick note, all the games on this list I have played a little bit, not a whole bunch. I'll mention the games I've completed as we go, but I have not completed a lot of Zelda games, so just a little forewarning. But number 10, Link to the Past. I have only played this via the Virtual Console, the SNES Virtual Console over on my Switch. I feel like this is a first game for a couple people, so this might be a handful of people's favorite game, because it was their first game, which my number one is actually my first game, so I definitely feel there's some draw to your first game, because it's like, oh, that was my first game, it's the best game. But anyway, my number 10 has to be A Link to the Past. So, moving on to my number 10, which is Spirit Tracks, which I own on a ROM hack sort of deal that I got from my DS. But Spirit Tracks, you get to ride a train. I really like trains, so that's very exciting to me. Spirit Tracks, really good game. I'm also currently playing Phantom Hourglass. So, both are really fun. But I like Spirit Tracks better because it's a train. So, my number 8 is Majora's Mask. I very much enjoyed the story of Majora's Mask. I think it's a really good story. Also, the 3 days gimmick kind of is a little terrifying, but once you get the hang of being able to handle the 3 days, it's kind of, but it's not as terrifying. One thing I find interesting about Majora's Mask is that, so for the N64, it was rated E for everyone, which I don't know how it got away with that rating because of how dark of a game it is. And then Majora's Mask 3D, it got rated and everyone ended up, which I can see. I still think it could definitely be a T rating, like Twilight Princess, because those are both really dark games. And granted, Twilight Princess is more realistic though, so it's kind of like eh. So when it came out for the Virtual Console with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass, it got rated T for teen, and I'm like, yep, I am not surprised by that whatsoever because of how dark of a game it is. So, yeah, number 8, Majora's Mask. My number 7 is Skyward Sword. I've only played the HD remake over on my Switch for this, which is kind of a trend with a lot of these. If I have only played the HD remake, or Twilight Princess, I have played the Wii version, but that's later on. So, number 7, Skyward Sword. I've only played the HD. I really like the game. I really like the graphics. Music, I love the music. Also, one of my favorite things, which I mentioned on my top 10 Zelda songs video from Season 1, is that Ballad of the Goddess is actually Zelda's lullaby backwards, which is very cool. Very clever. I really love the soundtrack of Skyward Sword. It's also the first, I don't think the only, but the first game to have an orchestra instead of the video, the bit more bit sounding, more I don't know, pixelated sounding. I don't really know how to describe it, but the game generated music, in game generated music, it's not a recording as much. So Skyward Sword is my number 7. My number 6 is Twilight Princess, which I played the Wii version of. I really like Twilight Princess. The story is really good. It also has one of my favorite Zelda sidekick characters, Midna. Just because I like how she had her attitude, and also how she's very useful. She's one of the few sidekicks I feel that's actually quote-unquote useful in a sense. Also Twilight Princess, I love Wolf Link. Breath of the Wild 2, Cat Link, anybody? Skyward Sword, Fee, I feel like Fee. I pronounce it Fee, maybe you pronounce it Fee. Let me know how it's actually supposed to be pronounced if you know. So anyway, Fee I kind of was about, but Twilight Princess, very fun. I like the game. It's a T for teen game, but I like the realistic part to it. A little fun fact about Twilight Princess. I'm giving you guys all the fun facts today. Twilight Princess was actually, maybe you already knew this, but Twilight Princess was actually supposed to be a sequel to Wind Waker. But it got completely scrapped of being a sequel to Wind Waker because of how bad the response. Not bad, I guess, but because people disliked the cartoony look of Wind Waker and wanted something more realistic. So that's why Twilight Princess is more realistic. So, anyway, my number 6 was Twilight Princess, and with that, I think we'll head to the break. And then we can go to my remaining top 5 and go over our honorable mentions. See you after the break. Bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. I'd like to take a quick moment of today's break to let you all know that I will be participating in a Zelda Creator Con that starts this coming Friday, June 10th, and is going to be from, again, this Friday, June 10th, until June 30th. There are going to be live events going on from June 10th until June 12th. I will not be able to participate. I will not be participating in any of the live events, but feel free to go check out and see what some fellow Zelda creators are doing. Anyway, I wanted to let you know, if you wanted to go check that out, entry is $1. It is a virtual con, so you can do everything from the comfort of your home, just on your computer or phone or whatever. I will be sure to leave the links in the description of today's episode, and I hope to see you there if you want to. But I just wanted to let you all know, hopefully we can get more listeners of the Gamer Girl podcast via this CreatorCon. I'm very excited about it. And without further ado, let's go back into the break and continue with today's episode. And we're back from the break. So, again, we were discussing my top 10 Zelda games. We just finished discussing my number 6, which was Twilight Princess. So, going on to my number 5, which is Link Between Worlds, which is over on the 3DS. I have almost completed this game. I am on the final Ganon fight. So close to defeating it. Yet, so far. But I very much enjoy Link Between Worlds. I like the whole aspect of it that where you go into the walls, go out of the walls, turn into a painting, and then unturn into a painting. I really enjoy it. I really like the graphics of it and the design of it. It's also a little fun fact, supposed to be a somewhat of a sequel to A Link to the Past, because it's the exact same map as Link to the Past, basically, except instead of going to the Dark World, you go to Lorule, which is the alternate realm, or oh my goodness, I can't speak. The alternate world to Hyrule, in a sense. So, number 5, Link Between Worlds. My number 4 is Link's Awakening, which I have played this on the Game & Watch, the Zelda Game & Watch that came out a couple years ago for the Zelda 35th anniversary. I have also played. I have been playing through the remake over on the Nintendo Switch a lot, though. Which, again, Oracle Game Remakes using the Link's Awakening Switch engine would be really cool. So, number 4, Link's Awakening. I really like the whole aspect that, spoiler, it's all a dream, if you didn't already know. So, next, we're getting into the top 3, and this is where I think it might be a little controversial about couple things, which I can discuss more after I pull out my top 3. So my number 3 is Wind Waker. Very fun game. I've only played the HD remake, but I love the cartoonish style. I love Tetra is one of my favorite characters in it because she's a pirate, and it's not just Princess Zelda. Granted, there's Sheik as well in Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time. But the fact that she's a pirate and doesn't know she's Zelda, I really think that's cool. I really like the whole story. I like the flooded Hyrule aspect to it. And then the whole story where it's Link went back to his time period, so there's no Link anymore. And then Ganon comes back and they're like, oh, we can't fix this. Let's just flood Hyrule instead. Because that works out perfectly. So, also the fact that the boat is another spoiler warning. It's the king of Hyrule. That's really cool. That definitely got me the first time. I was kind of like, why can this boat talk? And I was like, wait, you're the king of Hyrule? What? And then he's like, you know what? I quit on Hyrule. Let's just flood it all. I'm like, dude, why are you just giving up on Hyrule? But anyway. So, my number 3 is Wind Waker. This is where I can see it getting pretty controversial. Number 2 is Ocarina of Time, which I'm pretty sure Micah over on Nintendo Pals podcast, if he's listening, disagrees with this and thinks Wind Waker should be higher than Ocarina of Time. I've only played the Ocarina of Time remake, Ocarina of Time 3D. I have completed Ocarina of Time, one of the few games I have actually completed. But I very much enjoyed Ocarina of Time. I'm currently playing through Master Quest over on Ocarina of Time 3D. But it's the first 3D Zelda game. It revolutionized Zelda. I really like how it's the reason the timeline split. And when you think about it, it's like, oh, why did it split? And one thing I think would be cool, granted it would cause another split, is Link didn't go back in time. Link stayed and helped Zelda rebuild Hyrule. That would cause a whole other split, but I feel like it'd be a really cool split where Link's like, no, I want to stay and help rebuild it. But anyway, so, the moment you've all been waiting for. I think you can probably guess what my number 1 is, because it wasn't anywhere else on the list. You're probably like, why isn't this game on the list? Well, it's because it's my favorite game, and like I said earlier in the episode, it was my first Zelda game. Breath of the Wild. I am a fairly recent and new fan to the Zelda franchise, if you can't tell by Breath of the Wild being my first Zelda game. But anyway, Breath of the Wild, my favorite game. I love the open world concept, which is something I'm very excited about. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is being open world, because I definitely enjoy just being able to go virtually anywhere when you start. Just because it adds freedom to the game and it kind of makes you be able to engage yourself in the game more, I feel like. But anyway, Breath of the Wild, my favorite game. I'm pretty sure a lot of you would disagree. Some of you would probably agree. I'm not sure. Anyway, so, again, number 10, A Link to the Past. Number 9, Spirit Tracks. Number 8, Majora's Mask. Number 7, Skyward Sword. Number 6, Twilight Princess. Number 5, Link Between Worlds. Number 4, Link's Awakening. Number 3, Wind Waker. Number 2, Ocarina of Time. And number 1, Breath of the Wild. Quickly speaking to why I think Ocarina of Time is better than Wind Waker, well, they're really close to each other because it's really hard for me to put one above the other because I think they're both amazing games and very much enjoy playing them. But Ocarina of Time has more story, has more dungeons to it, and one of my favorite aspects of Zelda games is the dungeons. And I know Wind Waker, I've heard stuff before, it was rushed to some extent. And there are a couple areas where you're like, oh, this could totally be a dungeon. And it's not a dungeon because they didn't have time. Such as, you just get the pearl from Jaboon. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Instead of actually having a dungeon, which I'm pretty sure it's because it was rushed. And also, if you could go under the sea, that would be so cool. I kind of understand that it was the GameCube and it may have not been able to hold that much storage, but then looking at Ocarina of Time had a lot of dungeons and was able to still have somewhat of an open world, so, I mean, yeah. Which Wind Waker had an open world, like 0 loading zones, which I think is really cool. So on to my honorable mentions. I have Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. I haven't actually played them. I really want to. But I think they're both good games story-wise if you actually look at it. And then if you link them, it's really cool. Because you get special story with that. Another honorable mention I have is the original Legend of Zelda because it's the original. I have played this both on the Nintendo Switch Online, NES Pass, the NES Virtual Console. And then also another one I have is Phantom Hourglass. Hey guys, sorry about that. While I was editing the audio for today's episode, I noticed that the audio had cut out while recording. So, while I was talking about another honorable mention I had, which was Phantom Hourglass. Phantom Hourglass didn't make it on the list because I enjoy Spirit Trucks more, mainly because it has a train. The way of transport is the train, and I like trains a lot. And I figured I should only have one of the DS games because they weren't top 10. Both of them I didn't feel should be on my top 10 because I don't like both of them that much. But I figured I should at least put one, and Spirit Trucks is the one that ended up getting put on the list because I love trains so much. So, again, my number 10 was A Link to the Past, my number 9 was Spirit Tracks, my number 8 was Majora's Mask, my number 7 was Skyward Sword, my number 6 was Twilight Princess, my number 5 was Link Between Worlds, my number 4 was Link's Awakening, my number 3 was Wind Waker, my number 2 was Ocarina of Time, and my number 1 was Breath of the Wild. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Feel free to leave me an email at thegamergirlpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about this list, possibly by going and joining the Discord, link in the description, or leaving a comment on the episode over on YouTube. Again, please go leave a 5-star review on Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Helps out the channel out a ton. And also, don't forget, this coming Friday, June 10th, marks the beginning of the CreatorCon, which I may or may not be doing a live stream for. I'm still trying to figure that out. But if you go join it, then you can know if I'm going to end up doing a live stream. A little teaser, if I do end up being able to do one, it'll be a Zelda trivia, so feel free to go join that if I do end up doing one. I probably will do a Zelda trivia video sometime in the coming month, just over on my channel, over on Discord actually. Another reason to go join the Discord, because I'll be posting things on Discord about when that comes up, about how I'm going to be handling that. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Bye!